Welcome back to Fishing Without Bait, a lifetime without definitive expectations, where we help people explode into their lives through full impact mindfulness. We're not looking to help people find themselves, we're looking to help people create themselves. And we're going to continue our conversation with Karina Moussa, Pittsburgh children author. Everybody has an idea, but they all have the failure to launch syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What we always talk about, Karina, is people always seem to put barriers in front of their goals. I'd like to write a book, but I need a new laptop. And when I get the new laptop, well, I need a better word processing program, or I need a new desk. Or we always put conditions on our goals.
Yeah.
So how did you actually do this?
Yeah. So the first book was a process because it was the first book. I'd never done it before. After that, it became easier because it became just kind of like a copy and paste. But the first book was a process because I had to find an illustrator. I don't know how to draw, unfortunately. So I had to find an illustrator, I had to find an editor. And then I also had to find a way to get these books published and printed.
I think that is the conundrum for most people. They might have an idea. They may even have something written out. They may even be an artist and have the illustrations already. But how is it formatted? How is it put together? And how do you find somebody to publish it? Could you share that with us?
Yeah, so they are actually self-published. So it was a little bit easier because I didn't want to wait 6 or so months for a publisher to review it and then, either reject it or accept it. But also, when you go through a traditional publishing route, they'll take the book and they'll kind of almost not take you away from it, but they'll change everything. They'll be controlling the illustrations, they'll be controlling the editing, they'll be controlling the marketing. And I didn't want to give up that. I really wanted that creative piece to stay with me because I wanted to have my own ideas of how to do it. The only downside with that came is that then the marketing is on you if you self-publish. So if you self-publish, you have to be the one to market it, and that would be the tougher part of that. In terms of finding an editor and an illustrator, just from my work experiences, I had known about websites where you can find freelancers that will write or, illustrate for you or edit for you. And then I just had to do extensive research on how, I can format it. So I had to learn about the different dimensions.
You had to do all that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I laid the books out. All the books are, the covers. I created the covers. Um, the layouts are all mine. And that's exactly the stuff I wanted to do, and I knew I wouldn't be able to do had I gone a traditional publishing route.
I'm impressed.
Thank you.
Very much so. I'm not easily impressed. I am impressed. So how does it actually get printed? What place printed these things for you?
Yeah, so there's two options to print them. There's on-demand printing, where you go through basically a distributor, and then when a person orders a book, they'll just print it and they'll ship it to them. But the cost for that is a little bit higher. The printing cost is not cheap. The other option is to do bulk printing. So you can go to, let's say, like if I went to China and they printed my books in bulk, the unit price would go down, but then I would have to order a minimum, to have that unit price be a certain amount. So, that means have to be stuck with like maybe 1,000 books and try to sell them myself.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So who printed these?
So that's Amazon. The soft covers, it is Amazon. And then the hard covers are Ingram Sparks.
Oh, and Ingram Sparks is?
They're a distributor. So you put your book up with them and they look at it, make sure all the formatting's right. And they're pretty much the printers. They print them out and then they ship them out to whoever ordered them.
Okay. So quite often what we talk about also, Karina, is the difference between a gamble and a risk. A gamble, you can lose everything. A risk, you can recover from.
Mm-hmm.
So what type of a risk or gamble was it writing this? You devoted a lot of time and effort and energy and money into this.
Yeah, I think the risk and gamble, honestly, one was money, which, money comes and goes. So I I don't want to look at that too much as a gamble. If it's a money loss, it's a little bit of a money loss. But I did something I really was interested in, and I got really good experience from it. So I don't really look at that as a loss. The only other I think gamble is when you put yourself out there, or you put something that you created out there, you're opening it up for criticism.
Well, there's people out there who make a profession out of looking to be offended.
Yeah, right.
And I'm
Exactly.
sure you might got your share of turned up noses.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's definitely things like, in one of the books he'll go to Russia, and I remember before I had finalized it, somebody said, "Oh, I don't know, maybe he shouldn't go to Russia, just given everything that's going on right now." And I said, I don't want to take that out because that's still part of our world. That's still a country that still has people in it. And, he goes there and he learns something valuable from there. So I ended up keeping Russia in there. So there's definitely things I think that can be seen as controversial depending on the time that you're reading it, but I kept them as is.
Well, I like the way you're talking. We always talk about that there's no prize for being the richest person in a cemetery.
Hmm.
So, but we always ask people, well, what are you waiting for? People always make these wishes and hopes and desires. And it's like, what are you waiting for?
Right.
Oh, no. Usually I ask people, will you regret it if you don't? And if they say yes, then I said, there's your answer.
Hmm.
Go ahead and do it. And I think you would have regretted it if you wouldn't have done this.
Yeah, definitely.
So what was the next book after
After Delicious
Delicious?
Journey. So the next one is The Active Journey.
Yes.
Yep. And then the third one is a relaxing journey. So he learns how to cope with stress.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
I'm
that's
going
the
to get
third
that
one.
one.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then after that, it's a brilliant journey. So that's the intellectual wellness. So he learns about knowledge and education and why schools should be or is important.
Well, not only did you uh, emphasize being active, of course, which is part of wellness. In my world, we always say that exercise is free medicine.
Yeah.
And but you also introduced your readers to these countries and the sports that they do. I would have never thought that Algeria would have had field hockey.
Yeah. Or this,
Was that
I think that's Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka? Yes,
Yeah.
Sri Lanka
Yeah.
with field hockey. One of them was rugby and horse racing. It was camel racing.
Yeah.
Was
Yeah.
one of them too. That was just very interesting. I thought, just great. Mongolia. How did you come up with these?
I just did research. I wanted to represent a different country in each book. So each book has 7 countries he goes to, and I wanted each country to be different. So total 7 books, 7 countries. He's going to 49 different countries.
Wow.
Yeah, between a whole series. Um, so I just researched them and just made sure that each country represented something a little bit different than the next one that he would be going to.
So tell us about your journeys. You said you like to travel.
Oh yeah, I love traveling. I had a goal that I would travel somewhere new internationally every year. So, like I said, when we moved here, we were here on a visa, and when you're on a visa, it's pretty hard to leave the country and then come back in. So I didn't get my green card until I was 20 years old. I was in college. When I got my green card, I became a permanent resident, and then I was able to travel more freely. And then I got my citizenship 5 years later.
Okay.
So once I got my citizenship, it was just very easy to travel.
Sure.
Obviously, I'm a citizen
Yes.
of the United States. So after I graduated college, I said because I wasn't able to travel for pretty much almost this entire time up to here, I was going to travel somewhere new internationally every year. And then since then, I actually have been doing that with the exception of 2020 because of
Sure.
COVID. But the previous year before that, I went to 2 different places. So I say I kind of made up for that one.
Well, tell us some of the countries you visited.
So the very first country I went to was Italy. Um, and that was in 2015. I went with my sister and a friend of ours. And then the next year I went to, I want to say Switzerland, or I'm sorry, Ireland was the next year.
Oh, wow.
I went to Ireland. The year after that, I went to Switzerland, Germany, France. I went to Syria. Let's see where else I've gone. I just was in Iceland just this past October.
That's cool.
Yeah, very cool.
Most people live their lives on wishes and hopes and waiting for something to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But it sounds like you bought the ticket. And I haven't told this story for a while. I speak at a lot of rehabs, and I always talk to people about the difference between wishing and hoping and action and effort. And I usually tell this story, Karina. I say there was this person that prayed to win the lottery every day, sweat blood, okay? Nothing ever happened. So one day they got so angry that they went up outside and they yelled up at the sky and said, God, why won't you let me win the lottery? And God called back down and said, could you meet me halfway and at least buy a ticket? So the idea is about you bought the ticket.
I bought the ticket.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So maybe somebody out there says, well, gee, I haven't been able to travel the world. I'm not getting a PhD. I'm not doing these things. How can I write a book? How can I get from there to here? What type of message would you give to the people out there, particularly young ladies?
I think honestly, the type of message would be just to take a risk. Like I said, I didn't do this. I didn't expect to get all the money I invested back. I didn't do it to get rich. I did it because I wanted to do it, and I put myself out there. So I think that's what it comes down to is, take the risk and just be brave and do something that you want to do. And if it doesn't work, then at least you can say you tried.
To have some courage.
That's right.
Failure is not a dirty word.
Right.
We just find out things that don't work.
Right. Just a lesson.
Yes,
Yep.
it's a learning lesson. So I'm going to try to get the rest of these books. Are they all on Amazon?
So the third one is the rest of them are technically not published just yet,
Oh, okay.
but they're ready, but they just haven't been
Okay.
released.
These are the three that I found.
Yeah. So these two, the third one, which is the relaxing one where he learns to cope with stress, and then the Pittsburgh one.
Yes.
Yeah. So 4 of them.
Well, particularly like this Pittsburgh one for all you Yinzers that might be in the area listening to this program tonight, if you'd like to buy the ticket. So how does someone get in touch with you? How does someone buy your books?
Yeah. So I do have a website, wellnesswally.com. So you can find the books there. You can find contact information on there as well, and a little bit of an about me section. But also, if you just Google Wellness Wally, you'll find those. Amazon will come up, and then other places that you can buy it on.
Okay. Well, on our website we have Birds of a Feather. So on the Birds of a Feather, we usually list our friends.
Yeah.
That they can contact with you. And I don't know if we've put any books up there for a while, but we're going to renew that effort also. So we'll put your books up out there
Perfect.
to order.
Thank
And
you.
you've been absolutely delightful.
Thank you. You too. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
Yes, we like to have people. We like to showcase people,
Yeah.
particularly people that are trying to have a message
Mhm.
and carry forth a message, and that's a good thing. But
Great
in
thing.
order to carry a message, you have to have one.
Mhm.
So, what message would you give to our audience on our closing, Karina?
Well, if you want to read Wellness Wally, you can definitely learn a little bit about health and wellness. But like I said before, just have the courage, take a risk, and do what you want to do.
I like that. I like that quote. We'll steal that. So, and at the end of every podcast, we offer a free prescription. Fruits, nuts, and vegetables, and unplug your television and take up fishing. And for a truly mindful experience, we suggest that you fish without bait. Do a kindness for yourself and do a kindness for another. Forgive yourself and forgive another. If we're all not God's children, none of us are. Till all are free, none are free. Namaste.
If you're interested in flying the colors of fishing without bait, click the shop icon on our website. We have clothing, mugs, cell phone cases, and so much more. Show the world that you fish without bait.